Okay, we are live at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art. I'm Amanda Shepard, and joining me are Clydia and Sherry Early, sisters who, besides being entrepreneurs, are avid travelers, lovers of art, design, culture, and afros. Sherry and Clydia they've both volunteered for the museum for over 7 years, both as advisors for many projects, including the long-standing event, The Art of Hair, and Sherry as an active board member. Our topic for tonight is beauty, something that I know both of you are passionate about in all parts of your lives. And you've both been strong advocates for beauty in Black culture, especially. Tonight, our discussion will touch on the upcoming exhibition at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, Posing Beauty in African American Culture. And we're going to talk about a really fun project that we did together to involve people in the community in the exhibition. And that opens up Saturday at the museum. This program is made possible in part by the Indiana Arts Commission and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency, and by Arts United of Greater Fort Wayne. What we're talking about tonight makes a lot of sense for what's going on in our communities right now. But, you know, beauty, and especially beauty in Black culture, it's not a new thing for either of you. Tell us about the work that you've been doing to change the mainstream conception of beauty, a conception that often excludes people of color.
Well, if I go first, I would say that some of the work that we've been doing, in case people don't know, we worked with the museum. You touched on it. It was an event that we did for 6 years with the museum as a collaboration together, called The Art of Hair, okay? And I think that The Art of Hair was about the conception of beauty. I say that because The Art of Hair talked about hair and for African Americans, people of color, and how your hair looks and the style of it talks about you feeling and looking beautiful. So The Art of Hair kind of gave people an opportunity to see themselves in a different light, for African Americans to see themselves represented in a different light, in a different way of beauty. And with that, the museum had a show called Afros, and they brought in a young man named Michael July, and he had a book, but the book was all about Afros. So it was about how your conception of beauty, it made everybody look at Afros and the hairstyle different, beautiful, and got people a chance to see themselves with that.
I think for me, I totally agree with what Clydia said, but the work that we've done to help just the transition of how mainstream even looks at people of color has allowed us to help individuals and even ourselves embrace our own selves as who we are in our most natural state. And so the work that we do now, and then even with our initial show that we did with the museum, was to encourage Black and Brown people to also empower them to own our own presence in the society in which we live.
Why is it so, like, the natural side of things, let's touch on that some more. Why is it so important to help people of color find natural ways to celebrate their own beauty and not turn to things that are unnatural?
For me, I would say having a young 13-year-old that I am constantly trying to put people in front of her that look like her so that she can establish a good sense of self-esteem and confidence. I think no matter what race or culture you come from, that if you don't see images that you can emulate, that you can relate to, then you feel alone, you feel isolated, you feel, and oftentimes unloved and or cared for. And so it's very important for young African-American girls and boys and people of color to see people like them, that are owning their own selves in their own natural state.
I think, I think for a long time we tried to fit in, example in the workplace, You know, you wanted your hair to look like everybody's hair. I keep using hair, but it's, you know, it's easy because we can all relate to hair. You know what I'm saying? So you wanted to look like everybody or where you were doing. So it's about like representation. I think about maybe not necessarily imposed representation. It can be imposed because if you're working at a job, they want you to look a certain kind of way instead of your chosen representation or self-representation. So those are the things that I see with that.
So, Sherry, to your point of your daughter seeing images of healthy people celebrating their true selves, if you don't have those, what are the risks to her of not having those people to emulate?
I think lack of self-love can be a result, but then also if young people of color never saw that Obama could be president, why would they strive to be something they've never seen anyone look like them obtain? And that is the same, I think, across the board in any and all things we do, is that oftentimes when you see a young person, even little kids, and you say, well, what do you want to be? If they say they want to be a firefighter or they want to be a police officer, it's because they've seen firefighter and police officers that they can directly relate to. And so it's important for her to have images that she can directly relate to and see it as beauty so that she can own her own beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing yourself as good enough, I think, too. You're good enough. You know, the representation makes you feel like you're okay. It's about being empowered. When you see yourself represented in images, it not only empowers you, but it also makes you feel good about who you are.
And you don't have to be pressured to be who you're not.
Right.
Exactly.
Because that's the big thing as a young person today.
Yeah, it's a basic human need. Now, in your work, you know, surely you've seen the effects of what you do, and you know, you've traveled the country talking with other people who are really encouraging people of color to celebrate and cultivate their natural beauty. What are some of the positive changes that you've seen over the years that you've been doing this work?
I think that right now, some of the positive things that I'm seeing right now is that people are more accepting of Black and brown designers. You know, it's been a long, hard road, I would say, for Black and brown designers, because they don't have a Gucci. You know, they're not the head of a house. They don't put clothing and things out there where they're in charge or they're the head of. So right now, Black and brown designers, because of everything that's going on in our society, are being more accepted, and the ideas that they have, even African and African American designers, more accepted, more things out there on the market. People can see them more. I think that has changed a lot, you know, lately, and especially now.
I would just echo what Clydia says. I agree with that. And I'd also like to say that you see now more people of color wearing their hair natural as well. And it's not just on the weekend when I'm not at my day job. It is every day. It's every day. You can see someone with locks. You can see women that proudly wear braids or even afros. When that was not the case. Even as I was entering in the workforce as a much younger version of myself, I made sure that I processed my hair and that I looked the part, because people are more comfortable with people that look like them. So we're making that statement of being uncomfortable okay in the workplace to the place where it will no longer be uncomfortable to see someone in there with their natural hair.
I also think size and image, you know, body image and size. I know it's for all women, but for at least for Black women, let me say this: we've always had this thing about, you know, breast and behind. I'm just saying, it's real, okay? It's real, and if you look now, you see people that are getting, injections for behind. I mean, I'm just saying, in front. So, it was like, if you look along the years, you would see the body image of Black women, was always something that I felt, bad about. Like, I'm too big, or I'm too big here, I'm too big back there. And, my clothes don't fit me right here. So body size and image for women across the board, but really too for Black women, that also speaks to designers making clothes that fit you, or, because of your body size. And, that's a big thing for us, I would say.
To add to that as well, when individuals come to see the show, which I'm sure you guys are going to, that are tuning in tonight, you will get to see the wonderful style that people of color have, the love for color and the uniqueness of the design of clothing that they wear, that speaks so much to our aunts and uncles that we saw when we were growing up, with bell bottoms and green suits with green shoes to match and a top hat. That is so much of who we are as a people, that it's wonderful to see it, and to see it exhibited in this show, because it just, I think, for me, confirms that the trends that are changing and our own acceptance is also pushing society to accept us as well.
As you mentioned the exhibition, I think of the exhibition curator, Deborah Willis, and she's, as a student in the 1970s, she came to the realization that images of Black beauty, female and male, simply did not exist in the larger culture. So she knew this in the 1970s. And, obviously it was true then. And so a lot of the photographs in the exhibition, we have some that are from the 1890s. So she took it upon herself to go further back in history, to go back to Black newspapers, vintage ladies' journals, and basically has come up with a lifelong quest to put together a visual history of beauty in Black culture for 100 years. Mm-hmm. For her, this is not new either.
Right. I will say, I do, something that Sherry said, it is so, because it goes back so far. Fashion and beauty in Africa even have always been something. I mean, I know people are going to laugh, but if you look at the hieroglyphics and the things on the walls and what people drew in Egypt and just in those places, beauty and makeup and clothing and accessories and everything, it's always been very popular in, the African and African American culture, because it comes from a way back. And so even when you see people dressed in Africa with the head wraps and the clothing and everything, it's just always been, beauty, culture, design has always been very important. Makeup, how you look, how you present yourself, it's just always been important in our culture.
So you talked about some of the positive things that you've seen. Are there any personal stories that you can think of people that have made big changes? I know, Sherry, you talked about yourself of always having to feeling like you had to relax your hair. Are there any people you've met in your work that, had a conversion, so to speak, of I'm not doing this anymore, I'm going to do something different, I'm going to be myself?
Yeah, Sherry and I also have a business that we do called Green Hair Revolution. And Green Hair Revolution is really about organic, natural hair. Well, when I say organic, I want to say it's about natural hair and taking care of your hair and being as healthy as you can with your hair. But in doing that, we have ran into so many people who would only straighten their hair or put permanent relaxer into their hair to make it straight, and who have changed and said, I'm not going to do that anymore. And part of it is, there's a couple reasons. One reason is about health. And you find out that putting all those chemicals and different things in your hair harms your health all around in your whole body. What you put on your head goes into your skin and all that kind of stuff. But the other part of it is about feeling empowered. You know, you feel empowered. So you feel okay about your hair looking natural. You feel good because other people around you are looking like you. So I have seen a change in that way. And a lot of women that we have dealt with in Green Hair Revolution have came from doing different things to the hair to just wearing it natural, locks, Sherry said, braids. Underneath here, you guys don't know, but I don't have any hair. So, you know, I feel good about it. It took a long time for me to feel good and comfortable with myself. So I know a lot of women that have changed with Green Hair Revolution.
But yeah, you know, when you can stop worrying about, oh, I got to relax my hair, like you can think about other things. You can actually get important things done. You know, you can do things that make you feel good and you know, focus on some more important things. And you know, how does my hair look acceptable today? That's a really important point too. So it's you know, looking a certain way is one thing, but feeling a certain way, I know, has been really important to both of you.
For sure. And I think that that's another place where all cultures intersect, and that we all want to feel good. We all want to not have to worry about one more thing. I can't imagine. I'm sure when you get up in the morning, you're like, okay, am I wearing my hair straight today? Am I washing it? Am I not? I mean, I want to say that that's kind of nice.
No, and you know, like, in all seriousness, that's the luxury that I have had for my whole life. So, you know, on a serious note, I haven't had to worry about it that much. And you and I have talked about that before. But, you know, on a more humorous note, it's like, yeah, couldn't we all just wake up and just let our hair yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It's even about what you're wearing, you know, when you wake up. It's not just about, you know, we saying hair, because hair's been a big thing, you know, with people saying that, you know, you can't wear your hair a certain way to work. You can't wear your hair a certain way in school. You can't graduate. You can't come into, you know, it's just been a lot of different things with hair and beauty. But even with clothing and what you wear. And, you know, sometimes, you know, people ask me sometimes, do you put your clothes together at night? And I'm like, of course I do. I have to look beautiful every day, right? Just like you. So, you know, it's about our whole look. It's about the whole look and your presentation when you meet somebody and come in contact with people.
So I think as human beings, we all want to feel beautiful, but to you both, why is it important to feel beautiful? And in the Black culture, do you think that that has changed for Black people? You know, is do you all feel as though through your work and change that has been happening that you have the opportunity to feel beautiful?
Sherry, what do you think about that?
No, I was just thinking, because so the tail end of your question made me think about, so is it because of all the attention Black Lives Matter and other things that are going around nationally and internationally, do Black people or feel more beautiful because of the attention we're getting? And I think, in my opinion, and I can't speak for all Black people, I'm only one of millions on the planet, that no, I think if anything, this movement is so much more about equality and justice that appearance has been erased,
right,
for me. And so when it comes to the feeling of beauty, I don't think people of color have any desire to be more beautiful than any other race or ethnicity. I think that that is a innate human instinct and desire.
I agree. I don't, you know, the times don't make me feel you know, beautiful, more beautiful or less beautiful. What makes me feel more beautiful or less beautiful is where I'm at in my life, you know, as I grow and see different images of myself now, you know, because when I was little, I didn't see images of myself like that. I didn't see those images that the artist put together for the posing beauty in African American culture. I didn't get it. I didn't really see that except in my family, but I didn't see images like that at school, or I didn't see images like that in the paper or magazine. And I was an avid 17 reader. You know, well, you may not know about that, Amanda. 17 magazine, but I never seen images of myself in, you know, the 17 magazine. So, you know, like feeling beautiful now is like kind of, you know, something that has happened to me as I have grown up and grown into myself.
So let's go back to teenage Clydia. Then what did you think when you looked at those magazines? How'd that make you feel?
Well, when I used to look at like 17, you're gonna laugh, but so I always wanted to be that skinny girl, you know what I'm saying? With the manageable hair, okay? And the when I say manageable, I meant, you know, look like everybody else in the magazine. Straight, skinny. I don't want to say skinny. Let me say slender, because, you know, different body size, but slender, you know, and I used to feel like when I was looking at it and going and reading them 17 magazine, I just wanted to be like that. That's all I, you know, because that's the only image that outside of my family and, you know, people that I knew that looked like me, I never seen us in the book magazine. So I, of course, wanted to look like the 17 magazine. And it was later in life that I started to see images of myself, images of people that look like me. And that made me want to do something different. You know, like when I got to high school, I started seeing people with afros in like Ebony and Jet magazine. And I was like, I need an afro, you know, because it was like the epitome of beauty and style. Because beauty, you know, it was like having an afro in the 70s was the epitome of the Black power movement. You know, it was like you are culturally aware and it was expression of pride. But before, I wanted to look like everybody in the 17 magazine. I really did. So that's.
So as you got older, then who did you look up to as iconic of the kind of beauty that you wanted to have?
Diana Ross. You know, the movie Mahogany. Oh, when I saw Mahogany, I was like, oh my God. Oh, Afro, you know, like in the wind, you know, it was like I can wear my hair in any kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
I can wear a wig, I can wear Afro, I can wear a short style. I just felt like, you know what? This woman has it going on. And she's okay with who she is. And so she'll wear any kind of style. And that's when I started thinking, well, if they can do it, how come I can't? You know, why can't I wear my hair in different stuff in different way? I can wear a wig or, you know, change my hairstyle and do anything I want. But Diana Ross, I think, was my girl.
I think Diana Ross was who I was gonna say as well. But I also think about Iman,
Mm-hmm.
the model, and how when she came on the scene, it was a different beauty than we had seen before. And we were African American, but she was an African. Mm-hmm. Was actually being held up as a picture of beauty, and how incredible that was. I think Grace Jones even was someone that I don't think many people initially thought she was beautiful, but she was absolutely gorgeous. And so it made me start to think about, wow, you know, maybe one day I'll have the courage and or they just seemed like they loved themselves. And I'm sure they went through their own challenges, but when you saw the images of them, you saw someone that was embracing their beauty.
So thinking about your own daughters and and people in your life, young people in your life, is it different for them now? Do they have more access to these images of beautiful people that they can see themselves in?
So Clydia's kids are, or now adults that she has, are much older than my 13-year-old. And I find myself constantly trying to put images of people that look like her in front of her, because she, unlike me, who was excited about watching TV or trying to see what was on TV, and then I could get a glimpse of things that on commercials, she's not a television child at all. And so if it's not in the video game that she's playing or the TikTok that she go through a day, a week, a month, and outside of the people that are in her house, not see anyone that looks like her. And that's unfortunate.
Well, she has you. She has a beautiful mom she can look at and a beautiful aunt. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. That's why we have to beat her up here in the house. We have to, we have to get her and say, hey.
My oldest daughter, oh my goodness. Well, you know what? Let me say this. Even today and yesterday, kids go through phases, and they also go through, spurts. Because when they're with other kids, they want to look like other kids, or some kids don't, I still think that young people don't think when they're in school and going to school, not everybody, but a lot of young people in general, they just, they got their own stuff going on. It's when they're the freest, when they have their own style and they make up their own, what they're going to wear. They're doing different colors in their hair. Today they'll do pink, a butterfly, rainbow, they'll wear goth, black, those kinds of things. Everybody will be dressed all in black. Some people just have on, I don't know, boots in the summer, so I think then and now young people are more easily able to express themselves because they're freer. They don't have some of the hangups that we have about how we look and how we're presenting ourselves. So it's about, how we present and how we represent that we have. Young people, I think that still is happening with them. They're feeling freer. So I don't think that that a style has changed, but not how they represent themselves. They're freer in representing themselves in other ways than we are as adults.
Well, they're still experimenting and finding what feels good and what doesn't. And
right.
Theoretically, we've been through all that. And
right.
Right. Hopefully we found what makes us feel good. You're both passionate about art, and you mentioned designers, Black and brown designers. You're seeing changes there. Let's talk about fine art in particular. How can artists, and I guess artists of all kinds, we don't have to limit it to fine art, how can artists, particularly Black artists, contribute to a more widespread cultural understanding of diverse expressions of beauty? How is art particularly suited for that?
Ask that question one more time for me, Amanda.
So there are lots of ways that we can talk about this, that we can influence the culture. We can have these kinds of conversations. We can write about it. We can make movies about it. And then there's art.
Right.
What can art do? How can it do it in better or worse ways than some of these other methods? I tend to think that art has a power that a lot of other modes of communication just can't achieve. And when it comes to these kinds of topics, these issues, how can art be more powerful?
I personally think that art is the subtle influencer. And the reason I say that is because most art, or lots of art, is without any additional commentary. It is on its face the message. And it has, just by looking at it, the ability to evoke emotion from individuals. And that's extremely powerful. There's no words that have to transpire. There's no physical communication that has to happen, or touch or anything. And even if you don't have sight and you're able to feel Braille or things like that, you can still grasp from what is there some form of emotion and or feeling. So for me, art is extremely powerful, and it is a way to communicate and also allow others to take the time they need to change and be more accepting. And when I think about what we see as humans and the constant repetitiveness of different images, they become more acceptable. And I think art allows us to do that. But the other interesting thing that I was thinking when I was trying to think about the questions you might ask us today is, I feel like there are no true like Black art galleries here. We don't have many people of color selecting the work that people of color will see. And how do we change that? Because you picking a piece, Amanda, and me picking a piece, we're coming from two different places. And I think that that's an experience that I would love for more people to have. And that's not a knock on the work that you guys do at the museum at all, because I think that you have done wonderful and continue. Even bringing this show is awesome. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on all of that.
When I hear you share, I think about, like artists can change the narrative. It doesn't just have to be about the creation of art. It can be about, like Sherry's talking about, the museum having art available for people to see, collaborating together with different people, like what we're doing right now. Even though I don't consider myself an artist, artists can change what's going on by collaborating with you and talking to different museums and continuing to create and push to put their things out there in magazines, online, on TV, in different movies like Wakanda. I know that sounds funny, but it was all done by a Black designer, all of the clothing, everything in there. And those are the things that, to me, Black artists can do to continue to push culture, continue to push and show positive images of Black and brown people, continue to create, continue to collaborate, continue to just put your materials out there for the world to see.
Those are both great points. And Sherry, what you said at the beginning about art being so subtle, it can be so powerful, but it doesn't dominate you. It doesn't, it's not yelling at you. It's not steamrolling you. It's not forcing you into anything, but that doesn't mean it's not powerful. And that's what changes people. You don't change people by yelling at them or forcing them to accept something immediately, but their head and their hearts have to be changed. And art can do that in a way that not many other things can do. And when we look at, art being so personal, and if it comes from that personal place, it's sincere. And that sincerity, I think people respond to. And you don't always get that same sincerity in other venues. Like you're talking about 17 magazine, they're trying to sell magazines.
Right.
That's what they're trying to do.
Right. Right.
You know, it's not saying that, you know, it's evil or that everybody there is wrong, but it's not as sincere as I'm making this painting from my heart and this is what I'm actually feeling. And, you know, we know the difference between the two, but you know, there's still, that magazine has a lot of power.
Yes, it does.
And in a lot of cases, the wrong kind of power. And then you have art that has a different kind of power.
Amanda, Clydia and I happened to go to Art Basel a year ago in Florida. And as we were walking through an exhibit hall, we stopped at an exhibit and it was all photographs of individuals who had had their hair cornrowed and or French braided. And Clydia and I stopped and looked at each other. And we looked at each other because that is something that is pretty much a tradition in the African American community, that if you are a girl child, and now even a male child, at some point in time, you're getting your hair braided. And the beauty that we saw there made us realize something that we had been taking for granted. We never saw cornrows like that. And we have complimented on people's hair being beautiful and, oh, it's beautifully braided. But that beauty was more than just the hair. It was the models that they selected. It was the design. It was the light that hit the braids. It was the ornation of the different pieces of things that they put. We were just like, we look at braids all the time. It was incredible.
And you're seeing it in an entirely new light.
Yes, yes.
It's even being renewed within you.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and imagine somebody who's never seen hair done like that and they see it in such a beautiful and striking way, versus they see somebody walking down the street and they might not give that person a second look.
Right.
And I think what you're saying is that's the power of art.
Totally.
That's the subtle thing that she was talking about, I think, because like you said, if we see it every day, but we don't think about it as art until we saw it there happening in pictures and how they were done and how it was created. And then it was like, wow, that's art that we never thought about. We just do it. But it is artistic and it does make you feel empowered and it does make you feel strength. You know, it makes you feel strength and it makes you feel like, you know, if she can do this, you know, I can do something. I can do, you know, something beautiful. I can do something with art. I can do the same thing. So that's the beauty of art. When you see people that look like you, that put things together, that design, that paint, that draw, that video, that do podcasts, it makes you feel like you're able to do it too and not to be scared.
And that you're not alone.
Right. I love that.
Now, if anybody watching has questions, I encourage you to put those questions or comments into the comment box and we will get to those at the end. Now I want to turn to the exhibition. Now that we're on this art topic, I want to show two photographs that are in the exhibition and I want to get your thoughts on them. They're two of my favorites in the exhibition and I just want to hear you guys talk about them. I think.
Okay.
Here we go. I'm going to give you a test on these things, right?
Okay.
All right.
You're doing it, Amanda.
Am I doing it? Okay,
Yeah.
Here we go. Make that look a little bit nicer. Okay, let's talk about this one. It's by the artist Omar Victor Diop, and this is a modern day portrait of Frederick Douglass. Let's talk about this one.
Okay. Sherry, you ready?
I am. Are you?
Okay, I think so. I think I am.
So what do I see? The first initial thing that I see is colonization. I see colonization, and just the beauty of the hues of this individual's skin tone, the fullness of his lips, his hair, and how it is curly and wavy and luscious. The clothing that he has on is, I think, what makes me think of colonizers.
Well, when I look at it, I kind of see, I would say European fashion, kind of mixed with, maybe African diaspora aesthetic, because I see the clothing, something that I used to call like a dapper Dan. I know that sounds funny. A black man who was dressed really, in a European style, but then there was like something thrown in that reminded you of African-American or African-American culture. And for me, his hair, changes the outfit. Everything looks, like I could be a polished, hybrid, man, but there's two things that change that: the color of my skin and my hairstyle, and then the yellow whistle. So it's a like punch of color thrown in there with that. That's kind of how I see Dapper Dans. And there's, like this culture of Dapper Dans in Africa, where they wear European clothing, but then there's a punch of color thrown in, or the hairstyle is different, or maybe they have on this same outfit and they have on a pink tie, or something. So to me, that kind of looks like a dapper Dan person. So
now, I, in all portraits, we get this. We get to pay undivided attention to the person and the facial expression. What do you think of that? It's not just a neutral portrait. Portraitures are always saying something. What do you think his face is saying?
I'm here. I'm serious about this. I'm representing, me, and I'm okay with this representation. It makes me feel, good and positive. He's not shrinking away. He's not looking away. He's looking directly at the camera. And I think that it is an empowering picture. It makes me feel like you're looking directly into me, into my soul.
I agree. I think I see, at least for me, strength and the willingness to bear it all. Yep, this is me. Here I am.
So the artist is from Senegal, and he began his career in communications, but then he went into fashion photography. So, I can definitely see that in how he's posed his figure and how he's styled his figure, and even the really rich background continuing the vest fabric with what's in the background. And, he's posed with kind of he just has this kind of entrancing look to his face. He's looking into you. He's
right. No,
not
you're right.
looking at you. He's looking into you. Let's go on to this next one. And I picked this one for you ladies because I thought you'd like this one.
I love this one.
Yeah, let's talk about this one. What do you think about this one?
So power, I think, strength, but also struggle, and weight, the weight of being in existing. There's a weight there. There's a heaviness there.
This reminds me of like the 60s, and when, you know, the whole Black Power movement, just because of the all the picks in her hair, which also had to do with when the 50s and the 60s was when the Afro originally came out. And that's, you know, in the 60s, it was about, you know, the civil rights movement and taking pride in your hair, your own hair, your own natural self. And so I think about the civil rights movement when I see this because of the, you know, Black Power and that kind of stuff. And it makes me also think of, you know, Angela Davis and the Panthers and just that whole movement of being working and being independent and being okay with who you were. So when I see this, I think of, you know, civil rights movement.
I also think that it because there's so many there that it's shows the volume of people and movement, that it's not singular.
And we see more of her body than we saw in this one. We don't see her face though. I mean, one of you commented about the weight, and you know, she's kind of weighed down by that. We see a lot of her skin, but we don't see an expression on her face.
No.
I mean, and you saying that makes me think of Black women. We are often the carriers of much weight. And because of that, don't often have our heads high because we are carrying so much. So I think you saying that just kind of resonated for me.
And you know, that can kind of suppress your personality, you know. So and in here, you know, we don't get the expression of her face. We don't really get a chance to see who she is,
right?
To see the weight that she's carrying.
And to me, it's also about the struggle, you know, like it's about the struggle. That like Sherry's talking about weight, I think struggle, you know, just, you know, the heaviness of, because this always to me means Black, you know, African American. It's been a sign, you know, nothing, I'm not saying it's bad, you know, like different signs represent different cultures. Sure. This represents African Americans. So when I see that, you know, it's about the struggle for me.
So there are 121 works in the exhibition. So this is a very small sampling of what everyone can see. So I really hope that y'all will come out on Saturday and, you know, don't waste any time. I know it's going to be up through October, but don't waste time. Come see it. Now,
oh, we got to talk about our little special collab.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it right now. Why don't you talk to us about what we did together?
Look, we got to talk about our little special collab that we did. Yeah. So we, Sherry and I, along with the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, we did something we call Posings of Beauty Fort Wayne. So, you know, this is Posings of Beauty Fort Wayne style. And what we did was we asked people from the community to sign up and come and have their pictures taken and say what beauty is to them. And this is just a sneak peek. She's just showing you a couple, but we had great turnout, great community support. We had so men and women show up, as you can see. This gentleman is Jason Dixie over here with his fist up, and that's black and white. And these people right here with their faces looking like they're screaming, those are the change makers. And they showed up to get their pictures taken. And all of these were taken by an artist, and her name is Shawnee Thomas, and she is self-taught. And I just think she just did a beautiful job. And there are more pictures than this. This is just two. We collaborated to put this together with the exhibit that the museum is doing so that it can also be about our community.
And I just want to say that this is like a bonus to what you're going to already see in the 120 photos in the exhibit. You'll actually get to see some local beauties, and just to let all of the people that say, oh my goodness, how did I miss out? Why didn't I get in on that? Clydia and I are brainstorming on how we can open this opportunity up for others in the near future. So stay tuned, but please come see the show. We think it's more than worth it, and it'll be great support also for the beautiful people that have come and taken pictures here locally.
So it's not just about supporting the exhibit, it's about supporting our local Museum of Art that put the exhibit together. It's about supporting our community, the people that came and, you know, took pictures of themselves and were vulnerable enough to stand in front of a camera and let the camera do the talking and let everybody look at them. So it's about our community in Fort Wayne.
That's right. The vulnerability. I'm glad you mentioned that, because, you know, not only did we ask people to come and get their picture taken, but we asked them to share what beauty is to them. And in the first photo, beauty is confidence and laughter. And then in the group photo, beauty is Black and powerful, love, caring, hope, power, and grace. So it's not just about the photograph. It's about their definition of beauty. And I loved when you came to us with this idea, because, you know, you said, yeah, we want to help, but let's get the community involved. And I'm so glad that you brought that idea to us. So you're right. These are only two of the, gosh, we had what, 20 people?
Maybe about 22, 21.
Yeah, each people. Person had 5 or 6 photos taken of them, and we'll have them all on a slideshow in the exhibition or near the exhibition, and then we're going to be posting them here on Facebook and social media throughout the run of the exhibition, so people can see and learn about the work of Shawnee Thomas, as you mentioned.
Right.
And can I
love those pictures.
Clydia and I collaborate a lot and brainstorm, but this way that we've involved the community this time is the brainchild of my senior sister. And
you see how she said senior? You see how she said senior? She's trying to throw me under the bus. She's the older sister, okay?
I am grateful, thankful, and appreciative that you had the wisdom, Clydia, to suggest that this happen, and delighted that I could be a part of it with you.
Well, I am grateful, thankful, and appreciative that Amanda and the Art Museum were open to hearing what our comments were and how we thought that we could bring the community in and to help us make that happen. So it was truly a collaborative coming together, a working together with us to put this and make it happen. And I just loved how it turned out. It just turned out so fantastic. You have to come to the museum to see not the exhibit and the also exhibit of these pictures. So you got to check it out. So Amanda, you got to share links. You got to tell them how they get there. You got to tell them when the museum is open, because this is a must see. This is especially in the times that we are right now, especially now.
I know. And you didn't, it's my honor to be able to work on this project with you. So thank you for trusting me and for, being our friends and for just being you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you. And the museum. Thank you.
Well, this has been so much fun and a true pleasure for me, a true honor for me. Thank you both for your time this evening, for your thoughtfulness, for your heartfelt words, for your honesty, for your positivity, for everything that you do. And I hope that we can get back together again in person like we like to do. That's what we like to do.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank our viewers tonight for spending time with us, for taking time out of their evening to join us in this conversation. And good night, everybody.
Good night. See you. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
All right.